All right. Good morning, guys. Welcome to my Monday morning rant for Monday, the 22nd of March, 2021. Um, I just spent the last 15 minutes or so looking for my Ray-Ban sunnies, and I think I've lost them. I had a shoot with Viv last week where we started with a bottle of Bollinger, which is her favorite apparently, and got pretty trashed on that. And then popped another bottle of red as the Bollinger ran out. And then we ended up having dinner at Maryvale and had cocktails. And it's pretty funny, but there were shots on the camera that I don't even remember taking. And I kind of like that. It's funny. and and yeah, I remembered having my sunnies earlier on in that day, and then yeah, I have no memory of where I put them. I have a feeling they might be in the hotel room. Uh, but they were awesome sunnies. They had those special lenses where you can see through the water. What are they called again? Uh, my my head's not working right this morning. I do not remember what they're called, but I always get those lenses when I pay up for a nice set of glasses. I always get them. They're amazing. They're like non-glare, no glare, and yeah, I'm wearing my cheap throwaway Zen sunnies again now. And the whole concept behind these sunnies are I'm so sick of losing nice sunnies. Like first of all, I'll damage them, I'll drop them, I'll scratch them, and then it'll get to a point where I'll lose them. I yeah, go out, get drunk somewhere and leave them behind, or um the whole concept of these cheap sunnies are they're cheap and cheerful. You can buy a few of them, leave them lying around everywhere, put some in your glove box, put some in your backpack, put a set in every room, and if you lose them, who cares? But yeah, losing expensive sunnies. Not that Ray Bans are the most expensive sunnies in the world, but it's still a hit to me. And they were awesome sunnies. I think they even had my name on them. I think that they're Ray Ban Justins, and I miss them. I miss them already. So not a great way to start the week. But it is what it is. I have a funny story about Justin Hemmers and the Maryvale, by the way. So Justin Hemmers is this super rich guy who owns Chinese Laundry, Maryvale. His parents gifted him that empire, and he's built it up well. It seems like every restaurant he's opened in Sydney has been awesome. I've enjoyed the food at his restaurants and the service, and I used to do some work for him as a graphic designer. I used to do the flyers for the Tank nightclub that he has. I'm pretty sure Tank nightclub's still there, and yeah, that was some wacky work, man. Those guys were like absolute trippers, and we did some crazy work, some really good work. But the process was nuts. Like what you're talking about, like real nutty, wacky ideas. It's almost like back in the 90s, there was that 3D CG dancing baby, and every single client wanted you to do dancing baby for something. Like it was easy, but it was fucking hard, and it was like people just trip out. People trip out, and I remember having some albino white Oscars in a fish tank, and the client was in there. First thing he did was walk up to the tank and check out these fish, and he was like, "Oh, I have an idea. You're walking into the nightclub and you see these fish, and these fish come onto the screen, and then when the fish move, you see the entrance of the club." And so I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah." So working with those guys is pretty funny. Um, but yeah, at some point I got to check out Tank nightclub. Got invited to experience the whole shebang and take photos there and photos for a flyer. And what people don't know, or what a lot of people don't know, is there's a secret VIP room, and there's an elevator in the corner, and there's a full time security dude and elevator operator in the elevator, and you go up to this secret floor, and the secret floor is just an extension of the club, where there's a bar, a DJ, and there are beds. There are literally beds, like they were like a half pipe. Um, Lots of these half pipe beds and huge curtains, like shower curtains, over each one of them, with a huge silhouette of a heel with a huge cross through it. So like no heels. Take your fucking heels off if you're gonna jump into these beds. Um, yeah, next level pimp shit that exists. I'm happy it exists. It's like, I wish I was invited to that shit more often, but man, like it's good to know that it's out there. And this Justin Hemmers guy, I was so jealous of him, man. Like I'm not jealous of many people, but fuck, he rubbed me up the wrong way. I remember seeing him on television one weekend, and he was racing a WRX, a Maryvale sponsored. So he sponsored his own car, right? And he's in the racing series where all the other teams are like father and son teams and real garage, fucking grassroots racing. And he's at Bathurst, and they're going up the hill, and someone just punts him in the back a little bit, and he goes into the wall and wrecks his WRX. And so the interviewer just gets him on an just before an ad break and says, "Oh, we're here with Sydney's playboy of the scene, Justin Hemmers, and Justin, what do you think of that being shunted into the wall, and what are you going to do about it, and how's your car?" And he goes, "Oh, well, the car's trashed, but I've got another one, and I will be back out at round two." Um, and literally, as soon as the ad break was over, there he is with an identical WRX. He had two of them, exactly the same setup on both, and he just pulls out another one and continues racing. Like everybody else has only got one car, and that's how pimp this guy is. That's how rich he is, and that's he's loaded, and he obviously knows how to have fun. And so that wasn't the story. The funny story is, like, I finally got to meet the man because I was working for the nightclub, right, that he owns. And at some stage, I got to meet the guy because he was really happy with the work, and he wanted to talk to us about doing work for Maryvale as a whole. The establishment, and all the other venues that he has. So we got invited to the establishment. Yeah, that's the building in on George Street in the city, and got to meet the guy. And I remember just being in this lift, and when the lift opened up to what I thought was going to be his office, it wasn't an office. It was the entire floor of the building. So the lifts opened, and it was like a shell of a floor. Like all you could see were poles everywhere, like the structural poles of the floor, with nothing in there. Like it was completely stripped. And in the distance, up against the windows, was a desk. No bullshit. Literally, the whole floor was empty except for a desk, which was his desk. And surrounding the desk were these red swan chairs, like they're really expensive designer chairs. There was about 5 swan chairs there, and in 3 of them were the hottest women in suits I have ever seen, and they all had like clipboards with pens. Like, I mean, I suppose these days everyone would be using iPads, but they had clipboards, and they weren't introduced to us. They were just sitting there taking notes. So like these 3 hot women in these hot red chairs just taking notes. And he was sitting on this huge table in the middle of this entire floor of the building. Just one table. And he had all these monitors, and he had all these little die-cast cars everywhere. Really expensive cars. Really rare, expensive cars. Like, the Jaguar XJ, what XJ 220, and I think it is, and just really desirable cars, and I just thought, what a wanker. I mean, how ridiculously over the top was that? And I made a crack about the cars, like the little cars. I was something about like, oh, dude, are they like positive manifestations or something? Like, I don't know. It wasn't even funny, but he picked up on the vibe. And not only did we not get new work from him, I got fired as well. So good on him. Good on him for picking up on that, on me being a smartass. Good on him for being a vibe person and like realizing, hey, I fucking pay you to do work for me. I don't need you to have. I don't need to have these vibes. See you later. And yeah, I don't regret it. I'm not jealous of him anymore. But yeah, that's how you do it, man. That's how you live the life, I suppose. When you got the cash, and I just like it that he got rid of me based off one small little smart ass comment. But I could learn something from that, right? So anyway, moving on. It's been raining a shit ton. Like I know a lot of people are in dire straits out there and have lost their homes and shit. And fuck, when it rains this hard, my house starts to fall apart as well. But there's something about playing the guitar when it's pissing down rain. Like when it's raining hard, my fucking glasses are fogging up. Um, when it's raining hard, there's something about playing the guitar. And part of it is that when it's raining really heavy, you can't hear the guitar, right? So you got to crank it up. And when you crank up a small amplifier, it sounds even better. You know, when an amp is close to breaking, when you start to get some distortion, some natural distortion, just because you've cranked it up so much, you start to hear the tone of the guitar. And yeah, I've been cranking it up. And I've got backing tracks on that I found on YouTube. I crank them up, and then I just float over the top of it. And I've been playing so hard. My calluses are finally back, and it's been awesome, guys. Like I have been jamming as much as learning new shit too, learning new techniques, which was the main mission for me this time around. Was like, man, I've been playing since I was a teenager, but I've never really learnt anything new, you know. And I'm learning new shit, and it's really difficult because it's really annoying to just. It's not enough to just play it once or 5 times. Or you need to play it like 100 times. You need to wear the frets down, and that repetition is boring. But at the same time, I'm sick of playing the same old shit all over and over again for so many years now that I need to learn new shit. So new techniques. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And I'm really happy about my progress. I'm even tempted to take guitar lessons. Hey, like I'd even go that far, put some money into a guitar lesson a week. I'd rather spend the money on that than a personal trainer, which is something that I probably need too. Hey, why not both, right? We'll get there. So I have my favorite Korean-made Stratocaster in bits. My lounge room is a guitar workshop right now. And the bits are slowly starting to come in the mail every single day. I seem to have something new for it. It's going to be a beast. I'm going to absolutely love. I mean, I love this guitar. And with all the new bits and pieces on it, I'm going to love it even more. So whilst that's been in bits, and while I was waiting for new parts to come, I still had those itchy hands, you know, itchy to keep building, keep going. So I've had this right-handed, made in Japan Squire Stratocaster sitting in my sitting in the closet out of sight for many years now. I bought it for $300 off a kid on the JDMST car forums, and it even came with a Roland Cube amp. I mean, I think the kid didn't know what it was worth, and he just wanted to get rid of it. And Turns out, made in Japan squires are a real thing. Like they don't make them in Japan anymore. I think it was one of the last made. It's even older than my Korean made Strat. Um, and I've always held on to it, and I've always wanted to flip it upside down, just like Jimi Hendrix did, right? I've always been tempted to because I've always looked at it as a better guitar than my Korean made. But I've done some research. I punched the serial number in. Turns out it's not as good as my Korean made. My Korean made Strat has better componentry on it, better electronics. Um, and when I play both of them, I can feel the difference. Like the it's the little details, like the bridge saddles on the Korean Fender. The Korean Squire have Fender stamped into them. The Japanese doesn't. The neck on the Japanese is more traditional, whereas the Korean has this really weird, super thin neck that apparently is just unique to that guitar. It's not a modern C. It's something else. It doesn't even have a name. And it also explains why I love it so much, because I love a heavy metal guitar's neck, how fast and thin it is, and speed. I love that, and being able to solo and bend well and play faster up the top register is something that I've always loved about heavy metal guitars. So having the Fender Strat tone and a thin neck, it's like a super Strat. It's like a the best of both worlds. So I have done it. Yeah, did a bit of research on it, and then found out that it's actually Olympic white. Yeah, that's the paint color. And what's trippy about that is that uh, Jimi Hendrix is probably most famous for his performance at Woodstock. I think it was 1969, right? Woodstock, and he used the white Stratocaster upside down, of course. Um, and I started doing some research on that Strat because I'm just like, fuck it, this actually looks like Jimmy's Strat, you know. And I did some research, and it turns out that Jimmy's Strat, which was a 1968 Fender Stratocaster, was also Olympic white. So I'm just like, oh my god, I've always wanted to flip this upside down and do the Jimmy thing. And my god, it's a Squire Strat made in Japan, but it came out of the factory in Olympic white, just like Jimmy's Woodstock guitar, which he lovingly called Izabella. So I'm just like, oh man, I think I have to give in to temptation here, and I think I have to recreate Izabella, Japanese Izabella. Um, so yeah, I'm umming and erring about it for a couple of days. Posted up something on Facebook, and people were like, "Do it." I'm like, "Ah, oh, fuck it." It's pissing down rain. My fingers are fucking close to bleeding. I can't do any more to the Korean Strat until parts come in, which they'll come in today, Monday. Woo, delivery. Um, but yeah, so all of last weekend was pissing down rain, and I'm sitting there with Jimmy playing on the speakers, channeling the Jimi Hendrix experience, the voodoo vibes, and I just started ripping into this right-handed Japanese-made Fender Squire Stratocaster. And the scariest part about it was I have to knock the nut, which is glued down right onto the neck, and I had to knock the nut out and flip it upside down. Like in the past, when I flipped guitars upside down, I'd even leave the nut as is. I didn't give a fuck. But this time, I just wanted to do it right. Like, did Jimmy flip the nut? Most people do. So they're really brittle, those little things. It's really easy to snap one. It's really easy to damage it on the way out. And I watched a whole bunch of videos of the best way of knocking this nut out. And a lot of people use these rubber mallets and like a lot of cloth and a lot of towels and stuff. And like we're hitting this thing from multiple places just to try to break that glue bond before you can like sort of chisel it out from the side. and I didn't have any tools. Right, it's not like I'm about to go to Bunnings and pissing down rain and shit. It's probably after hours too. Yeah, I've been like working on it at night, and that explains why I've been documenting the whole thing too, like I usually do. But it's all my photos are really dark and shitty and grainy. Um, hasn't been the best conditions to be documenting a build, but all I had was these Jurassic tools from downstairs, and they're all rusty. My dad's old rusty hammer, which I've used as a kid on various things, and it's so special to me, this hammer, because it reminds me of dad. It's got vibes, it's got memories, but it's a heavy steel, rusty steel motherfucker with a huge wooden handle, and I used it to knock the nut out, which is overkill. But I just felt like there's just good vibes in this thing, and I just channeled not only Jimmy, I channeled my dad as well. Dad, please help me get this nut out without any damage, and it fucking came out. It was fucking awesome. It was such a good start to the build, and yeah, I flipped the nut upside down, restrung the guitar, and I spent a lot of time just setting it up right. Like the string heights, got the action down low. It's super low. The action's way lower than the action on my Korean Strat. So it's got that heavy metal, almost buzzing, not quite there, but just almost buzzing because the strings are so close to the fretboard. And yeah, it, it just came out perfect. Like I set up the intonation and I spent a lot of time on that because like you just got to do it. You got to do it right. Do it once and be done with it. And I'm just gonna refer to the build here because I don't want to forget what I've done, what I did to it. But oh, that's it. So the back of the neck was kind of like this glossy finish, and I don't think it's gloss from paint. I think it could be from like being played so much. But I sanded that down too, so it's nice and satin, and it's super fast now. Um, and I checked back at all the video footage of Jimmy on stage in Woodstock and how he set up his pickup heights and how he angled them towards the heavy strings. So I tried to set my guitar up exactly the same. All three pickups are set up exactly the same sort of heights and angles as what Jimmy had. Um, Oh, and the guitar input jack. The first thing I did when I plugged it in was I realized I just kept hitting that fucking guitar lead because it's like it's sticking out now. And I was just sitting there going, What can I do about this?" And I ended up flipping the input jack upside down and using an angled lead. And it looks so weird. It's so ugly, but it's so unique. It's like what a weird reason to flip something upside down. I mean, I'm flipping the whole guitar upside down. I'm flipping the strings upside down. So I might as well flip the input jack upside down. So it's called the boat because it looks like a little canoe. And I flipped it upside down so that now it's sticking out of the guitar and it can take a 90-degree jack and it's completely out of the way. And it was like a revelation. As soon as I did it and started playing, I was stopped hitting the jack. So it's little things like that. Like I just got so into this build. I got so excited about it. And it just reminded me like I love this. I love building things. I love modifying things. It was what I loved about modifying all those Japanese cars that I've owned. It's like you get to do so much research and then you get to make choices, your own choices based on the research, but also on your aesthetic and your thinking and your logic. And it's such an expressive form of, I mean, I don't know, is there an art to building? I think there is, because that's what I love about it the most. It's just like the amount of work that goes into the research, the obsession, sitting there just before bed and the first thing I do in the morning, just sitting there researching, finding out more about stuff. And in this case, it was finding out more about that guitar and that Jimmy played at, and about how he set his guitars up and why. And it's fucking fascinating. So, um, yeah, what else did I do to this thing? So, the more I did research, the more I realized like the little things I wanted to get right. And he uses a cable which is like an old school retro coil cable. Looked like an old school telephone lead, like a coil, so you can stretch it. So did a bit of research on those, and turns out they're still making them. And Fender's even making a Voodoo Child Hendrix lead with an extra flat 90-degree connector, which will be even better in my situation. So it'll be completely out of the way and I'll hardly hit it at all. Because you gotta remember, when the guitar's upside down, all of the volume and tone knobs and the selector, the whammy bar, and the input jack are at the top, which is right where your strumming is. And when you're strumming, you're hitting all this shit. And just to have that cable out of the way, so I've got that on order just to complete the Jimmy experience. And then I'm also checking out the strap that he's using in the photos, and it's like a hippie style. Um, it's got a hippie-ish pattern on it, and it's got a little metal buckle as well, which they don't have on straps now. And my Ernie Ball strap looks really similar actually. But then I started searching around, and turns out Dunlop, who makes straps, like they have reissued the same strap design that Jimmy used on stage at Woodstock, and complete with the metal buckle as well. So I'm like, holy shit, I fucking bought that too. So that's on the way from the States. I mean, I don't try to. I'm not trying to be dead accurate. I'm still adding my touches to it. But my God, this has come out so nice, and it's just been so fun to build. I mean, it was a little bit too quick, I got it done in the weekend. I wish I prefer a longer build, but oh man, it's been awesome. And I even did a little bit, even more research suggested that Jimmy uses a really strange string gauge. So I've always used nines. I think because I started playing during that whole heavy metal era where we were all using light gauge strings, nine gauge, so that you could bend and you could play fast and felt light. And over the years, I think guitar players, it's an egotistical thing. I feel where they've gone, heavy strings give you more tone, better tone, and as you become a better player, you should move to heavier strings. Maybe heavier strings go out of tune less and all that stuff. And I think it's all a little bit of a myth, hey, because um, I love the feel of lighter strings. So I've been doing a little bit of research on that, and there's even a set of 7-gauge strings out there. I mean, not many people make them. I think only one company makes them, but I'm so tempted to try them because it will allow me to do like double bends, like bends all the way up. Like, I mean, it will be really wacky. And like, so it turns out Jimmy's string configuration is really whack. Like his small strings are actually heavier. They're like a 10 gauge, but my nines are usually like 9 to like 42 or 9 to 46. His big E string is a 38. So it's more like an 8 gauge setup, or it's like a combination of a 10 gauge and an 8 gauge setup. And it's really interesting. And I need to try it. I need to try it. So I did a little bit of research on that, jumped on eBay and a couple of shops, and turns out Fender are making the Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child um, string set using exactly the same string setup that he used, which is nuts, right? Like everything just kind of fell together for this. The strap, the lead, the little touches, the little touches. So yeah, I've got to try it. I mean, I hate wasting these strings. I've seems like I've wasted 2 new packets of strings lately. 2 new packs of 9-gauge strings. um, $10 a pop. And what's shitty about it is like that cheap artist guitar that I bought, the Telecaster, for 200, almost $300, right? Like once I sold, once I converted this right-handed guitar into this Jimi Hendrix Izabella clone, I've realized now I don't have a right-handed guitar around the house for those moments where someone might drop past and that turns out they know how to play a bit of guitar. Let's have a jam, right? Like I've always had a right-handed guitar there. The reason why I bought that guitar and left it alone was that sometimes people come over, they know how to play guitar. Let's have a jam. And it's happened more than a few times, and they're so memorable. I love jamming with people, so I've always had that righty around the house. And now that I've converted it, there's no more right-handed guitars in the house. Uh, I do have a right-handed bass actually, which is a friend's, but I didn't really need an excuse to buy another guitar. Hey, like give me an excuse to buy another guitar, and I will. And so I'm looking around, and that cheap artist Telecaster that I bought, I had a look at their site and figured like, fuck, there's got to be even cheaper guitars on there. I knew it, and right-handed guitars are cheaper than left-handed guitars. So there's a Stratocaster copy on their website for $130 right-handed. 130. Like it's so much for the money to have a guitar that looks great, plays well, doesn't go out of tune. $130. I mean, here I am dreaming of owning a $4,000 or $5,000 guitar, and they're selling like $130 guitar. It looks the same. You could put the same strings on it. You could put some of the same things on it. I just don't know how you justify a $4,000 guitar. And part of me has been thinking about it, I'm like, that's probably why I just have never bought a $3,000 or $4,000 guitar. Like, I already know that if I bought a $4,000 American-made Pro Series Strat, it won't have the super thin neck that I've got on the Korean, which is like unique and weird to the guitar that I have. So who knows? I might spend the $4,000 and not like the feel of the guitar. Sure, I'll love it that I finally have my dream thing. But it's almost like a same thing with cars, right? Like I feel more at home in a $5,000 Mazda MX-5 than a a Lamborghini for $500,000 Lamborghini, which I've driven and I didn't like at all. Looks hot. The interior is amazing. The build quality is beautiful. But the driving experience, I couldn't do anything in it. I mean, even when I stamped the accelerator pedal down to the metal on it, it hesitated for a second. Like the fucking electronics and the brain of the car just went, "Whoa, what's this guy trying to do?" Whereas the MX-5, you can push it to like 80% of your limit and spin out on the track and still giggle and have fun. Try doing that in the Lamborghini. Probably end up in the wall, right? So yeah, I think I've sort of found my groove. It's like I desire nice expensive things, but I don't know if they're gonna make me happy. Um, the idea of buying a guitar for $130 versus a guitar for $5,000, and I instantly think, how many $130 guitars could I buy with that $5,000 guitar? I mean, I could have a guitar in every room, and I could give them all away, and I could destroy some, modify some. It's just crazy. So yeah, even just destroying 2 packets of strings from trial and error, that's $20. Add to that like a guitar pedal here or there. And like even the parts that I've been buying for my Korean Strat, like just the bridge saddles alone were $50. I'm like, man, $50 and a couple of packets of strings, and I could already buy a guitar. It's nuts. So that's where my head's at. It's kind of like budget, tight ass, being tight with my money, um, really spending a lot of small bits of money, and it's all adding up to be something. Yes, I could get that $4,000 Fender Strat, but man, I could get so much more for the money and have so much more fun with it. So yeah, I'm still there. I'm still kind of like just buying little things, and it's almost like that retail therapy thing. When you're building something and you're like constantly researching bits and pieces, and then you're hovering over the buy now button before bedtime and going, nah, I'll wait till tomorrow. And like eventually you click on it, and eventually um, you get doorbell ringing from my favorite person, the delivery person, delivering happiness to my doorstep. So yeah, been really enjoying building up the two guitars, and also just getting my head back into obsessing about stuff. And one thing that I remember from when I used to be in a band, my drummer used to always remind me that he liked Shannon. If you're out there, hello, I miss you. Shannon used to always tell me like he likes how I would play sometimes in front of the beat, and then sometimes I would play behind the beat, where Aaron, our bass player, was always bang on with Shannon, and that's the way a strong rhythm section of a band should be, right? But I was always like, apparently, I was always like behind the beat or in front of the beat on purpose, and I think that is the looseness that I like. I suppose it's my style, and it's expressive to be out of time on purpose, and it's almost like that term being in the pocket. A lot of musicians and people would think that being in the pocket means being bang on time. But I disagree. I think being in the pocket is being in the zone. And being in the zone doesn't mean being a metronome. A metronome is like the grid to me. Like as a graphic designer, it's the fucking grid. And you can stick to the grid and be super tight about it. And yeah, it'll be great. But it's not human. It's like we make mistakes, and a certain sloppy lazy style is so much more attractive to me because it's harder to replicate. It's more about those happy mistakes. And you might record something like John Frusciante from the Chili Peppers. He plays so messy that he probably could never play the same thing twice exactly the same, and I love that. And even my favorite rock album of all time is Appetite for Destruction by Gunners. And you listen to post interviews with Slash and everyone, and they were like, the drummer was so fucking out of it that he fucked up the recordings to a point where they had to fuck up their playing to suit the drum track. And I fucking love that. It's probably what made it, just adds to the magic of the album. And when you listen to a lot of the older rock bands and stuff, like they recorded live. Like even when I was in the band, we recorded live, and you're not recording to a metronome. So then there's emotion and feeling involved. Like when the chorus kicks in, or when the guitar solo kicks in, when the heavy bits kick in, your tempo can go up a bit. You're not stuck to the same tempo. Like when I was recording electronic and making electronic music a couple of years ago, you start with the metronome, and you start with this, you lock it in, and you're like 100 BPM, and it's just the whole track stays at that. And it's disgusting because you record one little guitar bit, and you don't have to play it from start to end like we did in the past. You go to a recording studio and you do the whole song start to end. You just record the verse and the chorus, and then you literally go to the application on your computer and you copy paste it. So it's perfect. Every fucking bit of it is perfect. And that's not right, right? It's like, even when you look at the visual wave of the audio track, it's all fucking perfect. And you can zoom right in there and delete bits of it. You can move your bits around so that it's perfect. But it looks perfect, but it doesn't sound perfect. I mean, it's really weird. It's like the music today has become perfect, visually perfect on a sound application. The sound wave is visually gorgeous, but it's not exactly perfect musically. not necessarily, right? So, well, this is the kind of stuff that I'm thinking of. It's kind of like some of the guitar lessons that I'm doing on YouTube are suggesting, play to a metronome as a tip. But I'm like, no, fuck that. So I don't mean to be stubborn, especially when it comes to learning new things, because I think my stubbornness will probably stop me from learning to a degree. But I was really hell bent on breaking some of my bad habits. But I'm also starting to realize that some of my bad habits aren't necessarily bad. Maybe, like I found this cool quote that Picasso made: "Learn the rules like a pro, so you can break them like an artist." And that resonates with me because I feel like I've learned how to stay in time, but over time, I ended up breaking those rules and being more expressive with my playing feels more advanced than just simply playing to a metronome. To feel what I'm playing and to play with feeling as opposed to play robotically. And I've always thought that with people who learn the piano and they finish the entire course to a point where they can become piano lecturers themselves. Like I've met so many people over my lifetime who can play the piano so well, but you take the sheet music away from them and they can't play a single fucking thing. And it's weird. It's so robotic. It's like they can only play when there's sheet music in front of them. And when you have a good look at that sheet music, it says play this with feeling. It's like, oh, so I need to play that bit with feeling instead of just actually fucking feeling it and expressing yourself. So yeah, it's kind of shit that's going through my mind. And I'm really liking it. I'm really liking getting my mojo back. I'm liking getting geeking out about shit again. Um, anyway, I'm gonna end my rant there. It's 9 o'clock. I need another coffee. I need a haircut, and I'm looking forward to the delivery person today because I'm gonna be able to continue on with my guitar builds. Hope everyone has a good week. I'm really sorry about all the bad news that I'm hearing about the rain just destroying people's homes. But I don't mean to rub it in, but man, this rain, I usually fucking hate it too. But there's something about playing the guitar in the rain. Hey, so uh, I'm looking forward to shredding my fingers some more this week, and yeah, check out some links in the description below. I'm gonna link up the guitar build that I did over the weekend, and you can just go through it and check out my energy in it because I checked it out and like I'm geeking out hard, and I'm loving it. I'm not so lazy that I'm not documenting. I've still got the camera there. I've definitely missed a few shots. I should have taken more, and I will do with the Korean strat. I will definitely take more shots. But guys, yeah, have a good week. Thanks for listening. I shall catch you guys in the next one. See yous.